that reminder, keeping part of my structure, keeping me straight, keeping me organized, and keeping me focused. So, welcome to week 3. By now, it's my hope that you're seeing some movement in the direction of the intentions of the program, which we'll also review today. Before we get into any of that, any specific choice you made, hopefully one that's consistent with what you've been growing through in the process of this program. What was the outcome, ripples, and now what's possible, your expectations from that choice. So, Keith, you're on first. You ready to rumble?
Yeah, sure. So I'm thinking, so by the way, as far as my studying plan goes, I'm completely off track on
We'll,
that.
we'll talk
So
about that. You actually
yeah,
texted me about that, and I get that. It's all good. We'll talk about it. What was just a choice that you did make between last week and this week that had a positive outcome?
yeah. So right now, I'm thinking about actually hiring somebody. So I've been thinking about it for a while, but just looking at what I want more of and what I need lesser of, right? I think I definitely need someone who can help me with a part of my daily operation, right? So um, that's just what what I started to think about, and I'm basically putting together all the list of things that I can um, give to someone else, right? And then things that I need to be focusing on. So it just helps me with that organization part of it. So that's just haven't hired anyone yet, but I'm looking. I will be looking soon. I'll reach out to some of my resources, but I think um, by doing that, I feel like I'm getting closer to what I want, right?
So
And
the choice was to begin the thought process of hiring someone that could take some of your stuff off your plate.
yeah, yeah.
Great. And is this an administrative person, a support person, or is it as an agent or an advisor?
Yeah, no, it can be both, right? So speaking of that, yeah, I'll be looking for like for the past 2 weeks I got like two resumes from those who I know already. They're graduating with a degree in financial planning, something in this field, and um, I think that's one area that I can grow my practice, right? Um, and then so I get to think about um, how like what my practice will look like, what my firm will look like, right? So hiring an advisor definitely is one of them. But right now, what I'm thinking about is somebody who can help me with more of I'll say support, right? So but still, I call it client experience manager or somebody who can who's somewhat client facing, but do the rather on the admin side, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Great. That's going to be a major shift forward for you. Melissa, I think I made you host instead of co-host. So could you mute anyone who's not talking, please? So Keith, that's something we can take into your one-on-one that you don't yet know about. Next week we'll do a halftime one-on-one call dedicated just to you, dedicated just to Kathleen, dedicated just to AV, um, and really dig deep on whatever you want to work on. I'm your genie in a bottle. We just roll up our sleeves. If it's that, if it's looking at specific action steps, if it's something else, if it's that plus something else. If that's something you want to work on a one-on-one, great. So has that freed up any energy for you and your thought process opening up? What else has that made available for you?
Could you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
What's different now that you've begun this thought process?
Um, think better focus. Although I haven't implemented everything that I feel like I need to, by just looking at this more or less, I'm not really writing this down every morning. Definitely should. Maybe cut down my studying time will help me do that, right? So um, I'll do that, and but by doing that, it definitely helps me give me that reminder of what I should be doing, and whatever I do, right? I just I'm just more aware of um, the nature of that specific task, right?
Great. So you're clarifying your thinking, and that's opening up your thinking to be clear in other areas. That was the number one thing we wanted to work on, was reclaiming your focus. I think it was, I don't remember this quote. I think it was Henry Ford who said, the thinking is the hardest work there is, which is the probable reason so few people engage in it. So you're engaging in thought processes that'll move the needle in your business and in your life. Well done. Kathleen, a choice that you made this week. You need to take yourself off mute, please. There we go.
You know, committing to doing my 30 minutes a day has been good. I definitely have felt a lot more purposeful and much more like I want to do this as opposed to I have to do this.
Great.
Like I just want to do it. I'm just laughing constantly at myself at how much I want to get certain things done and just how many interruptions and how busy I am trying to get, a certain number of things done, just that focus element. It just absolutely astonishes me how intense the brain is as far as just constantly feeding information. It literally just, it's cracked me up. I would like to share, I was telling I was away with my sister this weekend, well, for 5 days. And I really only recovered from my laryngitis a couple of days ago. So it's been very kind of stressful on my voice. But we spent 5 days together, and my sister smokes, and she goes out to the patio to have a cigarette. And I'm just like, God, it takes her like 10, 15, 20 minutes to smoke a cigarette, and I just think and I told her, I'm like, even if it's 10 minutes and 10 cigarettes a day, it's, that's a lot of time you're spending dedicated to smoking, and, just carve out 10 minutes for one activity that you're looking, like give up one cigarette, you can like get something else done. I was just kind of giving her a hard time, as sisters can do. And she goes, well, yeah, I need to do this exercise. I'm like, well, you just got to give up one cigarette and you can do your exercise every day. And so anyway, we kind of challenged each other to do the 10 minutes for me for my exercise and 10 minutes for her. When we left, we had 38 days. I dropped her off at the airport and came home and did my 10 minutes before I went to bed. So anyway, it's been, that, I guess that's a pretty good positive that's come out.
That's very cool. So you're impacting the people that you love and in a favorable way, and you have an accountability partner in the form of your sister. So all of this stuff fits into that tiny little box called the Go Big Blueprint, if you wanted to. And I find it a great way just to organize thoughts, choices, discipline, standards, and so forth. And so reaching out on one of these sides is your sister, AKA accountability partner, who's committed to 10 minutes and you're committed to 10 minutes. And fantastic. Anything else you want to say about what is the 30 minutes a day opened up for you professionally?
Kind of doing this in conjunction with reading that book, Getting Things Done, is just really super helpful, kind of 1-2 punch in this whole process. Just clearing the mind of just getting one more thing in an accountable place to follow up on is proven to be really super helpful. Taking the time to actually meet with my assistant, and she's actually coming to me asking, she said today, she said, I've been thinking about what I can do for you, what you can unload to me, what I can take care of. And so she had some
major movement forward.
Yeah. And so we carved out an hour for Thursday to get to dial in on some specific things. In the meantime, I gave her some things to work on today that she's just jammed on really great.
Great.
So I'm pretty psyched about, instead of being concerned about replacing her, just working with what I've got and figuring out how to make it work better has been a real good step forward.
That's terrific. I know that was a sticking point as early as, or as recently as last week, is do you replace her or do you find a way for her to be more effective? And it sounds like it's going toward that more effectiveness. So that's on you, that you made that happen by your initiative, working with her and pouring into her and teaching her and leading her in a way that previously wasn't happening. So, super.
I'm taking responsibility for my, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, anything else you want to say about that?
Well, yeah, it's not necessarily the long-term solution. I kind of realize that, but I do have the opportunity to really make it as best as possible now. So I'm really excited about that. That's super helpful. Keith, I highly recommend you get somebody on board. Kind of anyway. So yeah, that's been really good. At the very, I know there's things I need to move on, and so we're working on it. So I'm excited about that.
Great. So, do it, delegate it, or ditch it. The more you can give to her, the more it frees up for you, for your family, for your higher level clients and so forth. So great start on that. Fantastic. AV is hovering in a meadow. Welcome. Can you unmute yourself? Awesome.
Hi.
So AV, one choice that you made this week, it doesn't have to be consistent with the performance standard we created last week. It can be, but a choice you made this week that created a positive outcome, some ripples, and now what do you see from that?
A choice I made this week, always be prospecting. Whether or not I was able to sit there and make them 20 calls, I was always speaking to somebody who will give me a number, will give me, so I prospect on the weekend. I prospected while I'm in the hospital. I had a lot.
Your recording has reached the maximum length.
Oh, sorry guys. I ended up with my husband in the hospital, and he didn't have anything, no COVID or anything, but I was superwoman and I was still trying to make, but it's very excited to see your text because you were almost like a push. So I do need a partner, somebody to push me to get. So when I saw your text, I'm like, oh, that means I gotta do 20 calls. Let me at least do 10. So I'm sitting in front of the VA hospital in Miami, making some calls and contacting. So, despite it all, I was able to get some things in. So
Great.
This week has been horrible for me. I left my HGHD medication back in New York. I had to reroute to get somebody else's medication because my daughter wouldn't ship it to me. So I cannot be organized without that medication. I'm all over the place. And God willing, I started today a new day and I'm back on the game. So, and really just taught me how to just bounce back, and get back onto the course and always be prospecting. So whether I'm in a cafeteria, somebody knows somebody that needs my service. And, I just kept doing that. And I told my sister, you have to get more people for me. And she sent me 7 people yesterday. And one of them called me at wee hours. It was like 10:30. And I said, no, I don't want to pick up at 10:30. It's not normal business hour. She's like, pick up. I'll say, yeah, I should if you tell me. But, what's happening is that during the day, I don't have the will, wants, and discipline to do these calls. So I get to have a Cuban coffee, right about 6 when I take a nap, and then I'm like, yay, I could make my call. So between lollygagging, I start at 8:30. I only have half-hour window to play around, talk to these people. I really like to talk at night, and there is a window where I can't talk no more.
I love it. So you're becoming unstoppable. And the starting point of becoming unstoppable is realizing where you tend to get stopped. So in this case, you didn't let the hospital stop you. You didn't let 1030 stop you. You're becoming unstoppable. So what was an outcome out of that? A specific result that happened based on this shift in your energy and in your action? Was there an appointment set that previously would not be set? What happened because of that?
Give me a second. I have 7 meetings and 3 closing this week. Hopefully, we'll get to do that. So
Right.
3 closings we'll get some money in my pocket to pay you, bro.
And what's that worth to you? What is that? Can you put a number on that?
I'm hoping to cover 3 lives this week.
Okay.
So
Great.
yeah, the minimum is 2 lives a week. I'm trying to catch it up for last week.
Okay.
So if I do 3 to 4 lives, at least I'm playing catch up right now.
Okay. All right. Well done. Great. So I'm gonna share my screen with you, and
Sorry to everybody to bore you to death.
not a bore at all. I appreciate it. So Melissa, you'll need to make me co-host. I made you the only host. So if you can make me co-host so I can share my screen. Melissa?
Yeah, you should be co-host now.
Okay, great. There we go. All right. We are on week 3. So here on week 3, I want to just review where we've gone, make sure there's just crystal clarity on what a performance standard is, why it's so important, and give you some examples of that. So as a reminder, the intentions of Go Big are to reclaim your focus. We heard some evidence of that just in this brief breakdown we had in the last few minutes. Reclaim your focus. The mechanism for that is the more or less method and the higher purpose exercise. This is designed to get you accessing more often your higher self, this clarity, this sense of purpose, the sense of being in the zone, and then this crystal clear focus on what it is that you want to create more of and less of. From that, this brings about some specific choices. The idea of your choices is to take both your practice and your life to the next level, positively influence the lives of the people that you lead, love, and serve. You heard that in Kathleen's conversation about her sister. Create a structure of sustainability for consistent long-term growth. That's what that blueprint is designed to hold. It's continually adjustable, but that's what that blueprint's designed to hold. And everything that we do can be stuck in that blueprint and on some place, the blueprint we introduced last week, and ultimately become the person that you want to be of more often. We started with core today. As a review, we started with the more or less method, the higher purpose, and choice. A performance standard is a type of consistent choice. It begins with a question of what am I not doing? A choice would be one choice. I choose to call this person. I choose to clean my desk. I choose to read this book. A performance standard is a discipline, something that's measurable that you do consistently that will support your goals, but it's not a goal, it's an activity. It's a discipline, something that you do. It starts with the question, what am I not doing that if I did it consistently would positively impact the quality of my life as articulated in the more or less method and my higher purpose. From there, you want to look at doing more or less of something, make sure that it's manageable. Keith, we talked a little bit about maybe creating a minimum standard that you put a line in the sand that is manageable. So there's a difference here in an ideal standard. Let's say that my ideal standard for study or for exercise is 2 hours. Everything goes well, great, the ideal gets hit. But all heck breaks loose. My husband's in the hospital. I've got something weird happening. I don't have a husband, but my wife's in the hospital. Something weird happens in my life. What's that minimum standard, that line in the sand that will get done no matter what? So that's what this manageable / doable means. And you put a term on it because it's not forever. You just look at perhaps the term that we've got together between now and week 8, maybe now in week 9, however you want to gauge that. You put a beginning and an end on it. So here's some examples of personal standards, including but not limited to. There's all kinds of them. I just put some examples that I personally do and that a lot of my clients do through this work. On the mindset side, I lump in there the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. You can distinguish those however you like. You can have a specific discipline for mental, specific for emotional, specific for spiritual. However you want to categorize that is absolutely fine. Some of the specific disciplines or standards that you could create there are affirmations. This is what you say to yourself. Morning pages, as described in Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. This is just a very specific way of journaling. I think I mentioned it in our last call. It's journaling 3 pages a day in the morning. Whatever comes to your mind, you just write it down and put it on paper. Meditation, there's many different forms of meditation, guided or otherwise. There's apps you can use for meditation. There's YouTube. There's all sorts of different things you can do for meditation. I do one that's called HoloSync. It's an audio guided meditation. There's some embedded unconscious messages in there that I actually recorded and sent to this company, and they put it in this music and stick it back into my head. This is something that my wife and I have been doing for several months now. So if you want to hear more about that, we could talk about that now or on your one-on-one call. You can review your more or less method every day as a discipline. You can make it 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Your ideal may be 20, but you just dumb it down to a minimum standard. It could be a specific amount of reading, study. When my wife and I first met, she did our program, which back then wasn't even a program, called 40 Days of Focus. It was nowhere near what you went through, Kathleen. It was just a discipline every day, and her discipline was quiet time. She worked in a very hectic position as an executive with a hotel, still does, and she just said, I'll commit to 10 minutes of quiet time minimum. Her ideal was 30, but her minimum standard was 10 minutes a day, every day of quiet time. No phone, no distractions, no me, no dog, just her and quiet. So these are some of the standards you could create in the area of your personal mindset disciplines. There's physical disciplines typically that fall into health and nutrition. What are you going to eat more of and consume less of? Or physical movement, what will you do more of physically or do less of? And you can get into cardio and resistance training and types of training and number of minutes and level of intensity and so forth. I don't like to do cardio, so I've got a minimum standard around cardio because I don't like it. Ideally, I hit more than my minimum, but my minimum is 3 per week. So that's the bottom line. That's the standard. Whatever you choose in there is absolutely fine. You just articulate it. If it's important to you more, you're less. You look at a little bit more, a little bit less in the area of health and nutrition / exercise. Environmental, we've actually talked about this on a couple of you one-on-one and and on this call a little bit. It could be cleaning up some of your messes, decluttering, restructuring your environment in such a way that it works for you and your personality and your strengths and your weaknesses and your tendencies. There could be relational standards here, X amount of quality time per week, every week with an important person in my life, family, friends, distant, otherwise. You get to say, what's the minimum standard there? Professionally, you can look at in the business, your lead generation, your service, your administration, all of the proposals have to be done. What's the standard for that? Your study could fall into there, which I know does for you right now, Keith, applying for the next, or just going for the next license. And then the distinction here is working not just in the business, but on the business. So how much time as a standard do you look at the vision of your company, your corporation? You're the CEO of your own company. So looking at what you're doing right now, Keith, the support people that you're looking for, including but not limited to your admin, the people you bring onto your team in the advisor capacity. What do you want your business to look like? What type of study are you doing? Planning, systems integration in the business, on the business. So this is a way of looking at your business from the outside in so that you can create it long term in the vision that you want to create it. So this brings us to kind of our core content for today. There are 3 steps to creating transformation in any area of your life. I call these the ripple effect. That's what the book is called. Um, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it massive change. You can call it just going big. You can call it just getting to the next level. These are not optional steps, none of them. Any massive change that you go through will include all 3 of these steps. And one of them is not even in here. I need to put it in here. And the first step is to choose. That's where we started from this top level, looking at more or less, looking at the higher purpose and making a choice consistent with that purpose. Now, we all get to sometimes where we get to a choice. Like, I'm going to choose to study 2.5 hours a day. I'm going to choose to clean up my messes 30 minutes a day, choose to be organized, choose to make 20 calls a day. And sometimes stuff gets in the way. What gets in the way is a lack of step number 2, which is doing the work. It's staying the course. It's showing up. It's doing it no matter what. It's becoming unstoppable like AV was, making calls and prospecting from the hospital and answering the phone at 10:30. It's making sure you do the work that you said you would do, that you chose to do. You stay the course, you do it anyway when you don't feel like it, when you don't want to. You find a way to make sure that minimum standard happens. That being said, we all have a recipe for not making stuff happen. We have a recipe for letting ourselves off the hook. I believe that, Kathleen, you and I, in our first call, we talked about your recipe for breakdown. We all have one. It tends to happen from something external. The weather's bad, the kids are crying, you get a phone call, there's an unexpected meeting. It leads to an internal dialogue, and that internal dialogue finally gets up to this edge and you get stopped. It's kind of the screw it syndrome. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to let myself off the hook. And then you just say, oh, it's not going to happen. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll make up for it. It'll happen later. So in just a moment, I'm going to ask one of you to participate, and we'll distinguish your recipe for breakdown. What do you actually go through mentally, cognitively, emotionally that lets you off the hook? So we can start with anything you want. We can talk about performance standard that you created from last week. We can talk about, you just said you'd work out, you said you'd study, you said you'd do the 30 minutes of organization. But think about a discipline, something you chose that was consistent with this program, consistent to move the needle toward what you want more of and away from what you want less of. And what got in the way. I'll take you through the process, but if you have one that you have in mind, all you need right now is something you said you would do and you didn't do it. Anybody got one of those? Keith, I see you nodding. Can I work with you? So if you just go and unmute and I'll work with you. So I want to just start by saying this. This is not a beat you over the head. You didn't do it. This is not making you wrong for not doing it. And this is not in no way designed for you to punish yourself for not doing it. This is simply to articulate powerfully how specifically you get stopped and what that edge is and how you can see it coming the next time. So Keith, what was the activity that you said you would do?
So okay, because I'll explain and you can perhaps help me organize this. So I've been working out, right? Like 4 times a week, right? At least I wake up at like 5, right before 5-ish, and do like a quick 30 to 45 minute, workout. But for the past 2 weeks, I haven't been doing it because I don't know why, but I feel like I'm gonna be okay, so a little bit of story, right? So I wake up in the morning, right? And then I go downstairs and then I do some workout in my, home office space. But recently my son has been waking up really early,
Okay,
right? So whenever, and especially like whenever he hears something, he'll wake up and come to me. And I know, and I feel like my workout is gonna be stopped anyways, right?
got it.
Therefore, I just don't do it.
Got it. Okay,
Right.
so can you think of a specific day when you had the intention of working out and your son woke up and came to you?
Yeah, yeah. So I thought I woke up early enough um, so that I can just do some workout by myself. But
What day was it? Was it this week, last week? Can you think of a specific day?
it was last week.
Okay, so last week you woke up, you're ready to go exercise. Then what happened? Your son came
And
to
he
you.
follows me. So I
you-
was ready to go and he came to me, right? And I saw him coming down the stairs,
Okay.
right?
And
Like,
then what did you
and
say? What did you say to yourself?
no, I said, yeah, let's go back up and go back to sleep, right?
Okay.
So he ended up going back to sleep, right?
And then what did you say to yourself?
Um, I mean, at that time I just let's go back to my routine and get back to what I was doing, right?
What happened to the exercise in between putting your son back to sleep and you not exercising?
Yeah. So at that time I was already motivated because I almost started, right? Working out. So I was, dressed to exercise and everything. But, obviously, bringing him back upstairs and, having him go back to sleep, it took a while. So it kind of ate up some time for my workout. So it would have been normally like 45 minutes. It ended up being like, 10-minute stretch, right?
Okay, got it.
So
All right, so your goal, your intention was 45 minutes. You ended up doing 10, and you let yourself off the hook for that 35 minutes, basically. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? Okay. All
yeah.
right. So if we could, so we all have this recipe, and in this case, I get it. I mean, it's not. It's an external environment. It's your son. You love him. It's just, and it's something that has to be paid attention to. How old is your son?
3.5.
3.5. So a 3.5-year-old stopped you from a 45-minute workout within a 24-hour period. I'm trying to be a little funny. But so you want to look at what stopped me from this 45 minutes of workout. A personal discipline, I like to put it in 24 hours. That way all heck breaks loose. I can still get her done if I'm committed to it. So in this case, a 30-minute situation with your son led to a breakdown from 45-minute workout becoming a 10-minute stretch within a 24-hour period. Make sense? Would you remember what you actually said to yourself when you said you'll do the 10 minutes instead of the 45 minutes? You just say something like, "There's just not enough time. I'll do it tomorrow." Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, just exactly what you just said. Yeah, I don't have enough time. Let's at least do 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, great that you did at least the 10 minutes. A lot of people would just let themselves off the hook completely. So if there's that cognitive little pit, that's a pivot point that we all have. So you said to yourself, well, there's not enough time. It's too late now. I'll just do the 10 minutes and move on. So truly, it is great. You did something is almost always better than nothing. So you got the 10 minutes in. If your 10 minutes is your minimum standard, then you did it anyway. If 45 minutes is your minimum standard, then you didn't do it. You either do it or you don't do it. And so all we want to know is like, where is it that I let myself off the hook when I say I'm going to do something and it doesn't happen? In this case, it was 30 minutes with your 3.5-year-old son that stopped you from 45 minutes out of a 24-hour period and got it knocked down to 10 minutes. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you can look at this almost like it's a train coming down the tracks. If you're on the tracks, you hear the train, there's warning signs, there's vibrations, there's smoke, you can smell it, you can feel it, and you know it's coming. So in this case, the next time your son comes to you and is woken up when he's still supposed to be asleep, you know it's coming. you know that you have that tendency of that pivot point of letting yourself off the hook. So you want to say, okay, well, am I going to let myself off the hook this time, or am I going to find a way to do my minimum standard, whatever that minimum standard is? If it's 45 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, if it's 20 minutes, it's 10 minutes, whatever you say it is. Will I find a way to still get that done today, or will I allow myself to break down and let myself off the hook? So this brings us to structure, which is there may be a structure within the home that is more supportive externally for you to do the work, given the inevitable situation that, well, some of these times your son is going to wake up. So I don't know what that is, but it's something to look at to say, what shifts in structure? Do I get up earlier when I know am I quieter when I get up? I don't know. That could be a part of structure. Is there some way I could be, it's like a tiny mouse in such a way my son doesn't hear me when I wake up until I get to the workout room and I can work out. This could be a shift in structure that supports your commitment called 45 minutes in the morning. It could be, okay, my son, woke up. It's not going to happen today. I'll find a way to get 45 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever that minimum standard is you say it is. I'll find a way to do it at lunch. I'll find a way to do it after I work. I'll put it in somewhere. It's not ideal, but I'll put it in somewhere else. We're going to do a whole session on structure week after next. But that's just a little shift that you can make in the home to support your commitment called 45 minutes of working out.
Okay, and I think same thing happened to me with studying too. Like when I feel like, I don't like once I start studying, if I know that, I have less time than I expected, I just don't do it. So I think that's kind of a factor that.
Yeah, that for that reason, I would dumb that standard down, because the problem is if you got this all or nothing mentality. If I can't do the whole thing the way I want to do it, I'm not going to do it at all. I have that mentality too. I tend to have that mentality. That is really not it's not a great mentality for moving the needle. Mm-hmm. Because if when the structure changes or when it's less than an ideal scenario, nothing gets done. Something tends to be better than nothing. So I would dumb that 2.5 hours down to the line, like we briefly exchanged on the text exchange. I would dumb that down to an absolute bare bone minimum, no matter what. I'll count them. It'll be an hour, whatever it is. I'll set an egg timer. If it's 29 minutes, I got 31 more minutes to go before midnight. Even when all hell breaks loose, you get that hour in. On the ideal scenarios, what that's going to do is set you up better for the times that are ideal. You'll get more out of that 2.5 hours than you would if you weren't putting the 29 minutes and the 31 minutes in those less than ideal scenarios. So I would dumb that standard down to something that you're going to commit to in the less than ideal scenario. Maybe it's an hour every day, 7 days a week. Ideally, 4 days a week, I hit 2.5 hours. Ideally, I had 2.5 hours every week, but no matter what, it's going to, every day, sorry. But no matter what, it's going to be 7 hours a week minimum, absolute bottom line, no matter what. That would be my recommendation.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm going to work with one. I got to pay attention to one moment to my dog here. I want to work with one more of you on this. Kathleen or AV, at least one of you. Right back.
I'm ready.
Sorry, I took up too much of.
It's okay. No problem. Interesting. There's always you plan and God laughs. Like, that's how I feel like I'm going to do this. And then there comes everything around to make you not want to do it or to make you to go against what you're planning in your head. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's what happened.
Feels like that's been all of 2020.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, after this, we're going to be immune.
So I learned to do, not now, but I learned to think in the Army. The first thing they did is Oprah used to sleep with the workout clothes on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as soon as she get up, she'll brush her teeth and she'll just go. So for me, because of the Army, they wake up, we get ready, we run, and then we come back and take a shower. I had it as a habit to work out, to just go outside and figure it out, just to take the decision every day. But I've been slacking quite a while the last few because I've been moving too many states and I'm all over the place. So even if I get dressed, sometimes I'm just dressed to go work out and it doesn't happen. So I get you. I
What's
understand totally.
now, AB, is a shift in structure, and yeah, I've recommended this for, I think, even on the last call. I work out a lot. It's part of my lifestyle. It's not always hard for me, but I don't like working out in the morning, and so I know I'm going to work out in the morning. I'm unlike you, Kim. I don't work out in the morning if I don't have that commitment on the table. It doesn't happen. But if it's part of my minimum standard, and I got to work out in the morning, I don't sleep in my clothes. I have done that, but I put the shorts, I put the shoes, I put the socks, I put the workout drink, or make sure the coffee's on, and I know exactly what I'm doing that morning. I don't have to think about it. I wake up and I just get it done. It doesn't have to be pleasant. It's not always fun. It's not my preference, but at least I can say, okay, it's done, and I know I'm not going to get it done later because that's why I'm doing it in the morning, and it's implemented. I'm going to share with you. I don't know the source of this. A friend of mine shared this with me. He talked about a guy that wanted to learn how to play guitar, but what he did every time he came home is he turned on the television. So here's what he did. He took the remote control out of the room and he stuck it in another room, about 2 rooms outside of the living room. He put his guitar right next to the television. And this was the only structural shift that he made. Literally the inconvenience of grabbing the remote control. Oh, there's the guitar. I might as well pick up the guitar and practice. So it's a simple, subtle, structural shift in environment. I've got a blog coming out tomorrow on structure. We'll talk more about it. We'll get a deeper dive in a couple of weeks. But structuring your life in such a way that it works for your personality. Right now, I just had to go check on my dog. I mean, our lines of personal and professional life are blended currently now, perhaps more than ever. So when that structure breaks down or collapses or integrates in such a way it previously wasn't integrated, it's up to you to make those shifts in such a way that you make it work given this structure. I'm in a very different structure now than I was 4 weeks ago. I was in a 1-bedroom apartment with people upstairs and dogs, and it was nuts. But I just had to make the structure work given that scenario. I'm in a different structure, so now you can see the parts and pieces coming together here. So given your environment, I work with one of Kathleen's associates one-on-one. His office right now and his Zoom calls, everything's in his bedroom. So we're everything. And he's got roommates. He's a top producer, does a great job. He owns a house, but he's got roommates, always stuff going on. So we literally are sequestering like only one corner, like a part of the bedroom for his war chart, for his client list, for his stuff up there. So he can turn that off and go to bed. But when he's ready for business, he can turn it on. That's his structure. It's compartmentalized so that it works for his weird environment without an office at work, with other people in the house, and with his domain limited to one room. So given your domain, given your environment, how can you shift that structure so that you become less stoppable because of external things, less stoppable because of your 3-year-old son? There's no disrespect to your son. He's your son, you love him, and you also have a commitment. So you love your son, you put him back to sleep, or you find a way for him to sleep more, and you still follow through. That's what a performance standard is. You do it regardless, and you set the environment in such a way that it works for you. Part of Kathleen's structure, part of her environment, with one of her disciplines, called 10-minute exercise, is her sister. So this is an accountability partner, somebody that she's accountable to, somebody that's accountable to her for this 10-minute thing. It's part of a structure. We'll do things within structure that we will never do otherwise. This is a structure. This is a structure I'm very familiar with. I've paid a lot of coaches a lot of money, and when I pay them money and when I commit to something, I pay attention, I show up, I make sure I get the most I can get out of it. Last year I did a physique competition. I hired a coach. I paid him a lot of money. He's had all the money up front. That way I know I'm committed and he's going to take the money. If I don't show up, I might as well show up. It's part of my structure. So structure, we'll do a deep dive dedicated just to that. Right now, we want to look at this pivot point of you staying the course, regardless of structure. Your accountability. If your accountability partner flakes, you have all the freedom or all the limitations in the world. You just find a way to get it done because you're unstoppable. So I want to work with, if we have time, I'll work with both of you. Who would like to start? Just a choice that you made that didn't happen. You let something get in the way. So AV or Kathleen, who would like to go? We'll identify your recipe for breakdown.
I'll go.
All right, AV, what was the choice?
I said I was gonna call 20 people every day.
20 people a day. Can you think of a specific day that it didn't happen? Just pick one specific day.
Every day didn't happen.
One, tell me what, just think about it. Was it, okay, yesterday, for example. Was yesterday one of the days?
Yesterday was one of the days.
Okay, so yesterday you had set that you made 20 calls. Lead me through the external environment and then that pivot point that when you said it's just not going to happen on whatever you said. So what happened yesterday that got in the way of those 20 calls?
Yesterday I had one meeting in the morning at 9:30. Then I have accountability partner at 11:30. They text me and said, you need to be in that meeting. So I'm like, I'm grateful for you to be, I appreciate you to make me be in the meeting because I'll miss the meeting anyway. And then I didn't have a meeting the rest of the day. And because of what you said, you're in an environment of home and, you kind of relax at home and you don't put the chip to work. Either you're in chip to work and you drink a Cuban coffee here in Miami, or you're dozing off. I'm dozing off right now.
Let me reel it back in. So tell me what happened environmentally. There was just something that happened externally when you when you went to the phone. Was it external or internal? When you went to pick up the phone and make a dial, did you get to that point where you made a dial?
I made a few dials, but I want to sit down and do the 20, and I can't even get there.
So how many did you make yesterday?
I made about 5.
Okay, so on between 5 and the next thing not happening, what was that conversation? What happened externally, and then what did you say to yourself?
So to me, it's a difference between cold calling and calling people that I know. I'm really shy of calling people that I know. Like I could call Kathleen, I could call Keith, and I could be myself. Hey, Kathleen, how are you? But calling people that I know, it's researching where they are, thinking whether it's too much thinking for me. So I just dropped the whole thing. It's easier for me to talk to prospect people that I don't know than prospect to people that I know. So okay. I'm still in my warm market.
Okay, so I'll slow down for a second. So you got to the end of your 5th call. And was the next step, I don't know who else to call. I don't want to call anybody I don't know. What did you say to yourself?
The next step was, I have to think what these people are doing, if they're you qualified. Like I get stopped in who they are and whether they need our
service. I have to think about these people. I have to see if they're pre-qualified. I have to research them. And then what did you say? I'll just do it tomorrow. I'm not going to do it. Screw it. What did you say to yourself?
I'll speak to my sister and she'll give me more people.
I'll speak to my sister. Okay, that's affectionately not a bad call talking to your sister because she did give you more people, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, that's a really good thing. But then after that, you're still on call number 5. What did you say then? And I would count this. I mean, if it depends on how you want to structure, how you want to count them. But if I would call a lead generation call, in my estimation, could include nurturing a relationship with somebody that could give you leads. It's up to you categorize that. But even so, it's 6 calls and not 5. So what happened next?
I honestly think that the timing, it was 9:30 and I said I have half a more hour, I need to focus on this. The focus just wasn't there. So
Got it.
I feel like it just needs to be, I'm targeted to make the 40 calls from 9:30 to 10:30, and now it's not happening. So the actual reality is that my highest point is 7 to 9
Yeah.
instead of 9:30. I'm always busy at the time that I have it scheduled for. So I'm not in planet Earth. I'm in another planet with the timing.
We're going to have a great one-on-one call. I'm going to help you with do you remember what you said to yourself when you let yourself off the hook? Was it, I don't feel like calling this person? Was it,
Everybody's frozen. Everybody's frozen.
I think that's maybe on your.
Everybody's frozen.
Okay.
Everybody was frozen.
All right. Did you hear the question?
No, I
All right,
was
so
ready to
here's
record.
the question, then we'll wrap this up. So what did you say to yourself at that 5th call? And maybe after you talked to your sister and you just said, okay, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll wait for the leads for my sister. What did you say to yourself?
Tomorrow will be a better day, and I might just have to do a 40.
So you have a pivot point called tomorrow will be a better day that you use consistently to let yourself off the hook. So the next time you hear this, tomorrow can be a better day, you have a choice. You can let yourself off the hook, or you can say, that's what I do. There's where I get stopped. I get stopped by tomorrow will be a better day. And you move through that and you make one more call and another call, and you move through it 16 times if you have to. So you hit 21 calls. Structurally, we can take this on the one-on-one call. So structurally, you want to have some work. It's in the South, we call it fixing to get ready. There's some fixing to get ready. So structurally, you need to fix yourself to be ready, which means whatever that work is that needs to be done before you're ready to call those people, that's not done during the calls. You do the research on the calls, you know, the people that you're going to have an idea of what you're going to talk to them about. You have the relevance, and we can do our whole session on this if you want. It's never a cold call because there's relevancy, there's personalization, there's very specificity. Even if I'm calling somebody from LinkedIn that I've never met, there is no cold call because I'm referencing Kathleen, or I'm referencing Stephen Dunbar, or I'm referencing, you know, a mutual of Omaha managing director that they know, that I personally know. It's never cold. I'm referencing the fact they went to Tulane, which is where I went, or they grew up in Birmingham, which is where I grew up. There's always a reference point. It's never a cold call. So that's something that we can work on structurally, is having that. I know you said you ran out of inventory. We need to get you some inventory, people that you can call that hits at least 20, better yet 30 or 40. So structurally, that doesn't come into play. Now, you still will have this pivot point that tomorrow will be a better day, maybe, but it's going to be easier to break through that if you don't have to break through the structural component of not having the people to call, or not knowing what to say, or not knowing if they're qualified, all that crap that doesn't need to go in. It's not crap, but it doesn't take the time and the energy during your calls, during your execution.
Correct. Yes.
So if you didn't catch up, next week, I talked with my team, and what I want to do is just go one-on-one with you, you and me. So each of you one-on-one, and that can go during this time, roughly 45 minutes, give or take. And that can be this slot, if that's the slot that's best for you. I'll open up the calendar for that, or any slot sometime between now and the next 2 weeks, where we just roll up our sleeves and go to work on just you, where you're at. We have 3 different people in 3 very different places, and I want to do that to pour into you. So, Kathleen, we've been through this little rodeo one time before. Let's go through a real quick one with you. Something you said you would do this week, that you did. There was a commitment, not just maybe I'll do this, and something happened and you let yourself off the hook. Do you have one? Go and unmute, please.
Sorry. That's good. You didn't hear me call. Yeah, probably, I would say I had 50 of them. Specifically, I would have to say, or to give an example of one, it's preparing some documentation for a client, LD. I'll just call her LD. And I didn't get it done. Didn't get it to her.
What was the commitment was actually to get it to her? Is that right?
To get 2 forms complete for her to e-sign.
Okay.
And not get that done for her.
What got in the way? Was it conscious, or was it kind of just I sort of forgot? What was it that got in the way of that?
You know, the beauty of going through this process and working together and being focused is that higher sensitivity to commitment, and it's just kind of juggling. Oh shoot, what's more important, this or that? I have so much time. What's more important, this or that? Mm-hmm. I've chosen the other thing over this.
Got it.
And probably so on one hand, that could be a rationalization for something that really is a higher priority for whatever reason. It definitely exists. The other one is that more along the lines of Keith, of like, this is actually going to take some intense concentration that I can't do. I can't do it in a 5-minute thing. It's going to take longer than that.
Right.
And I got to get some pieces together, and identifying those pieces. So anyway, while everybody's been sharing, and I've had a chance to think about what am I going to share about, and think about what's been my roadblock on this. What am I, I just today, I'm like, so how about today? Why don't you do it today? So I'm looking at my calendar, and it's like, I don't really want to do it today. Right.
So if I can just feed this back to you a little bit, you're absolutely right. There is 100% justification and legitimacy in choosing a higher value activity over a lower value commitment. We have to do this all the time. I mean, so, a loved one is in the hospital, there's an emergency, the dog is throwing up, whatever. I mean, that's just something that has to be attended to. But what we have it as is that oftentimes we have that as, in your, I don't know the exact words you use, but I'm going to call it a justification for letting ourselves off the hook instead of a reason why we can't do something. So it's putting it as this, it's just not the truth many times that I can't do this because of this.
Yeah, it's letting myself off the hook.
Yeah, and so we have it like, we just make it up like, well, because of this, I can't do my previous commitment. So I would suggest that you challenge that. If that's what you're saying to yourself, that may be true, but is it really true? Like, is it really true that I no longer can fulfill on this commitment because of this higher level commitment? Or am I just using this higher level commitment as an excuse to not do this crap I don't really want to do?
Right.
So that's something to be aware of. And this really brings us to the third step of the ripple effect. And it's just that, it's to pay attention. And this program, this is a paying attention program, the program that our 40 Days of Focus program, whenever you're ready to start that, we can start that on your next call. I can tell you all about it, whatever. It's included with this. Kathleen did it. It's a paying attention program disguised as I have to do this thing every day. I have to study every day. I have to work out every day. I have to do my lead generation calls every day. Yes, you got to do that stuff. But and you got to break through the stuff that keeps you from doing the stuff. You got to address your recipe for breakdown. You got to drive through the excuses. You got to structure your choices so they work for you. You got to get up, and put the clothes out, whatever that is. All that stuff is important, but that is not the most important part of the work. The most important part of the work is paying attention. So it's paying attention to how you let yourself off the hook. How Keith does, how Evie does, how Doug does, how Melissa does, how Kathleen does you. How is it possible that I said I would do this and I didn't do it? Oh, I made something else a higher commitment, and I allowed that to become an excuse for not doing this other commitment. If that's true for you, there's power in having that understanding and having that self-assessment and having that realization, because when the starting point of becoming unstoppable is realizing where and how specifically you get stopped. I got stopped by my 3.5-year-old son. He was more powerful than my 45-minute workout within a 24-hour period. I got stopped by by 10:30 at night or 9 o'clock in the morning, or the fact that I didn't have anybody to call. That's what stopped me. It's not the truth. It's just stuff that we make up, and you can become unstoppable by paying attention to that. And as you continue to do the work, you show up when you don't want to, you do it when you don't feel like it, you do it anyway. Now you pay attention to what's possible because of that. The meeting that would not have been set, the sale, the acquisition that would not have been made, the person you got on your team that wouldn't be on there, Keith. You pay attention to the impact of this consistent performance standard in every area of your life. You're paying attention to the thought process that's been opened up just by looking at the possibility of bringing somebody onto your team that can support you. Just by the choice of thinking about that, you've opened up a higher level of focus in other areas of your life. And so you put the spotlight on that, and so you pay attention to that. Isn't that interesting? All I've done is start to think about a person I can add to my team, and it's already creating an impact, a positive impact over here. So we're opening it up, questions, comments. If you want to work through something for the time we have left, what are the ahas, any progress you've noticed? What are the highlights for you? What are you getting out of this, or what do you want to address? Open.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So you sent us over the great kind of one piece visual of the focus in the middle and all the components
Yes.
around it.
That is right. I'm going to share that that's right
and
here.
Then the the kind of PowerPoint slides, if you will, of the different pieces. Do you just have that in a written out format? And do you also have what you shared with us today? Are you going to send that to us that you had on your?
Everything I share, the outline of the day will be sent to you. It's been revised slightly, so that'll come to you after the session today. Here I broke down for you that we sent. I had an artist do this. I just had this in my head, and I had an artist help me kind of structure this out of my head and onto this, and this is what it became. So right now, what we're working on is we started with focus, and we're looking at choices that can become goals. And this performance standard, we've also talked a little about structure. We'll do an entire session on structure. Models are just a form of structure, and then tools are also a part of your structure. So these standards and structures and models and tools all work together. I'm not 1,000% sure I'm answering your question though. So what is the question? So
you send us additional slides, coaching, and then had lines for us to, coaches, a list line, so we could write down coaches, partners, mentees, peers. But it's not really in a usable format to, those pieces. Thanks, Keith.
Okay.
I mean, I just know if you just have them written down, and then I can just add the stuff for myself and then have it like in a PDF, in a Word document. If not, I could just like the outline you provided today, I can just write it out that way. But the format that it's provided to me in is not useful as a tool for me to complete it for myself, to have my own good, big thing. So
how can I make it better? How can we make it better for you?
like just on one, like just on a Word document, coaches, and then 4 lines, partners, 4 lines, mentees, 4 lines, peers, 4 lines. And then however, those standards, I'm not really sure how those are supposed to be structured in that, or if that's separate, or the focus is for, I find this incredibly challenging to figure out how I'm supposed to actually use this.
Okay, well, we'll make some shifts and make it work
So,
for you. We can do
I mean,
that.
I want it written out like what my standards are, and like you said, and I can plug them into what you showed us today, and just that simple written like Word document.
So for you, the little worksheets, like the core worksheet and the higher purpose questionnaire, that's better for the way you like to track things, right?
Yeah, something that I could fill out, because I'm not going to print. I mean, it'd be nice to have this, but I'm not going to print this on my color printer. It'll eat up all my print. So the other thing is just having a document that's in black or white, or that doesn't have a colored background.
Okay.
Just so, it's really great for a PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't translate as easily and smoothly as a printed document.
Okay.
And, at least I'm not going to print that on 8.5 by 11, but.
Well, you gave me some homework, so I'll work with Melissa. I'll do my homework, and I'll make sure I have this for you guys, for everybody, by next week at the latest. So we'll carve it out and make worksheets out of it, and make them editable so you can plug stuff in there. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
You did talk to us about coming up with a personal performance standard.
That's right. That was your homework for last week. And on the homework for this week is come up with at least 2 personal and 2 professional. So do you want to share what your personal performance standard was?
Well, in essence, I feel like I have 2, so maybe I'm ahead of my work for next week. I have my 10-minute commitment with my sister. I almost feel like that's easy because I'm already working that into my, it's already becoming a habit, and it's more of I get to than a have to. It's not as challenging, which is great. My other commitment, and to put it on as a minimal standard, makes me nervous when I go that strong as a commitment. So I'd have to say, 10 minutes minimum and then 20 ideal, is just taking the time to work on personal things that I want to get done. And I've got a list of what those are. I don't think it's important to know what all those little things are, which I'm happy to share, but I don't know that that's.
We'll just call it the Kathleen do list, the personal Kathleen do list, right?
Yeah. So yeah, and I've got a list of what those things are for me that I can then kind of visualize what the outcome would be for me.
Okay.
What does that look like if I do 10 to 20 minutes a day on, toward this? What my outcome will be? I have that written down.
Great, fantastic. Keith, did you do a performance standard in the personal area from last week that you want to share?
And now that I'm thinking, I'll do minimum 30-minute workout and study for, I guess minimum, I'll at least do some stretching. Okay, I'm okay with that. So let's do 15 minutes. If
Minimum 15 minutes,
yeah.
is that daily?
Yeah, daily. Yeah, I think that I have to focus on
exercise daily,
right? Rather than I go for like the 45-minute, workout and just don't do it at all. So
yeah.
I'll do at least 15 minutes, and if things go ideally, right, it will be 45 minutes.
Yeah, here's the thing. Minimums many times lead to more. So if you're showing up for your 15 minutes, once you get to minute 16, a lot of times you'll say, well, heck, I got 15 more minutes or 5 more minutes or 20 more minutes. But if you don't hit that minimum, sometimes you don't start at all. So it's a difference. 15 minutes many times can end up being 30 or 45 minutes. And then your worst case scenario is more than 0. It's 15. Did you want to re-articulate the commitment on study, or are you still thinking about that one?
Yeah, I'll do minimum of 1 hour, but I'm thinking at least doing 30 minutes. So typically what I did was I feel like I can study better in the morning, just like the first thing in the morning. So right after I work out. That's why at night, if I have time, I don't even do it because I feel like I'm not going to consume as much. But what I'm going to do is at least an hour in the morning. And I'll do another 30 minutes before going to bed. And it kind of do my reading with it too. So 30-minute
So
reading.
what's the minimum standard daily? Is it an hour, or is it an hour plus 30 minutes?
Let's do an hour.
So minimum. So no matter what, between bell to bell,
Yeah.
morning to midnight, or
Yeah.
12 a.m. to midnight, you'll get in an hour minimum.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put the study material right next to my bed.
Okay, great. So that's a part of your structure. Fantastic. Looks like AV is not on here. Okay, so I will get part of my structure, and my commitment on this end is we'll get you an editable word for all this stuff. You've got it for focus. We'll get one for the choices and how those articulate into performance standards. And we'll do the same for coaches, peers, partners, and so forth. Let me share one more thing with you here. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. Okay, so back on week 3. So looking forward, we'll do halftime one-on-ones next week. You and I one-on-one, whatever you want to bring in there. We'll just roll up our sleeves and get to work exactly where you personally are. We'll talk about the 4 levels of integrity, how those affect our word, how one is a much higher level than another, how you can implement those. We'll do a dedicated session to structure. We'll have a guest authority. That's my plan, is to have that on week 7. Talk about consistency and sustainability after this program, so that you're not depending on a program to continue to things. Not that you don't have to have the structure of a program. You have a structure without a program. You have your own program to move yourself forward and continue the progress and the velocity that we create over these 8 weeks. And by week 8, it is my hope, my challenge, my desire, my nudge, that all of us, including myself, will throw our hat into the ring, including Melissa, if she's so inclined, and Melinda, if next time she gets on here, is throwing your hat in the ring as defined by making an external, time-bounded commitment of what you intend to take on or accomplish that you don't even know how you'll accomplish, and we'll put a carrot and a stick on that and set that in motion. So this is where we're heading. So for now, continue to track your core, develop and implement 2 performance standards. We talked about a couple of those just now. Get an accountability partner. Kathleen, you've got one in your sister. You can have more than one. Sometimes my wife's my accountability, sometimes men in my life are my accountability partner. You can use Habit Share with me. I'm on there. This is an app that I'm on. All you got to do is find me or just ping me and I'll find you. You can share your habits with me. I recommend sharing them with somebody who's doing something similar, like Kathleen and her sister sharing this 10 minutes, and you can just ping each other when you've done. You just plug it in there and your partner sees what you've done or what you haven't done. I love the app. I use it with several clients. It's not a requirement, but if you would like to get on there and get an accountability partner outside of here, I'd recommend it. And I'm happy to be an eyeball on those habits as well. You can put everything you want on there and you can share whichever you want. So if you don't want to share some, you have that option. we went through and articulated part of your recipe for breakdown. Be aware of that this week. How specifically do you let yourself off the hook? What's the environment? What's the message you say in yourself and in your mind? Where do you go to and you just say, oh, I'm not going to do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. Today's been a bad day. Tomorrow will be a better day. Pay attention to what that voice is, that little pivot point. And when you bump up against it, remember you can pivot back the other way and do the work and do it anyway. Book your halftime call with me, and I'm going to put on here on my end, send, this is DG. Editable Word doc. So Melissa and I will get that together and get that to you. My goal for that is I'll get that to you by the end of the week. So I'll say that I will get that to you by the end of the week. That's my minimum standard for that. How about that? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, let me get off of here. Save that. And all right. So I'll open up next. The Calendly link goes directly to my calendar. Melissa can put that into the message today as well. Do any of you know, any of you just want to go and either one of you want to just go and take 2 o'clock next week since you already have it on the calendar? I can't hear you, Kathleen, you're muted.
I could do 2 o'clock next week.
Okay, so I'll have you at 2 o'clock. Keith, you want to do 3 or you just want to, I can send you the link, either whatever's better for you.
I can do 3.
All right, so I got Kathleen at 2 and Keith at 3. All right, awesome. Any other questions or comments or clarifications or just highlights that you've gotten from this session? Anything else you want to put out into the Go Big universe?
I mean, I do.
Accomplishing more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm excited about accomplishing more.
Can you think of what's one thing specific that you've accomplished more that we don't know about yet? Anything that comes to mind?
That I've already accomplished?
Yeah. Or that you're in the process of accomplishing? You said more, so what does more look like?
Oh, well, it's getting closer to having this organization on it and feeling on top of it, which I'm much closer every day. I'm getting closer.
Awesome. So yeah, so keep monitoring that progress and that'll fuel you to make more of it. Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Keith?
Yes, I'll just ask more questions during our next call, but so the week 1, I was very clear on what we are doing as far as what we talked about, like core and tracking measurements. But what we talked about yesterday, I'm still a little bit confused about choice versus performance standard, because what I ended up doing last week was, okay, studying was my choice, right? But I put that, criteria for, performance standard, right?
Let me clear it up for you. A performance standard is a type of choice. So a choice is not necessarily a performance standard, but a performance standard is an implementation of your choice over a consistent period of time. If you want to on the phone with me right now after we get off, I'm more than happy to chat with you about it.
Yeah. I just want to clear that up before I kind of move forward. So if you
So when you said I'm going to study an hour a day, 7 days a week for the next 6 weeks, that's a performance standard.
Okay, so is it true that you attach performance standard to your choice?
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. You can make your choice into a performance standard.
Okay.
That's what you did when you said, I'll study an hour minimum every day for the next 6 weeks, or
So
whatever
can
your
you do that
commitment is.
for each choice?
Yeah, I mean, one of your choices may be just, I'm going to pick up the phone and call this particular person. So that would be an example of a choice. A
Yeah.
performance standard would be the example, I'm going to call 5 people of this category every single day, 5 times a week. That's a way of turning a choice into a performance standard.
So basically what we did in the first session is, okay, what was your choice? And, you know, by doing it, how did you feel, right? And the second session, which was last week, was, okay, you made these choices, but let's put more of a standard
That's right.
to that choice. So when you do that, right, you're more intentional, right? And by having that time frame in, you have a better plan.
You got a track to run on. Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So I tell you what, why don't we just hop on the phone with me one-on-one, and I'm happy to chat with you more about this.
okay.
I've got we can chat as soon as we conclude this meeting, and it's all good. I want to make sure you're crystal clear on this, and I think we can do that in 15 minutes max. So, any other questions or comments? Awesome. All right, you guys rock. Thank you. I'll look forward to the one-on-ones next week. Keith will hop on the phone right now as well as next week. And if you have anything, you're always welcome to call me, ping me, ask me any questions. And Kathleen, thank you for your contribution. We'll make sure we get that stuff out this week. All right.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care, Kathleen.
Bye.